Welcome to Every Coach Needs a Coach, the podcast for coaches of all sports and all age groups to learn from coaches and people they otherwise may never have the chance to meet. Today on See One, Do, and Teach One, I want to share a story from the most influential book that I've read that's affected my life. It's called Win the Crowd by a guy named Steve Cohen, who's a magician. And when I was 16, my uncle took me to see a show in New York, and he had him sign this copy of his book for me. And I read this at 16, and it has absolutely affected every area of my life. And Steve introduces 5 concepts he calls the Maxims of Magic. And it's basically how to influence the people around you, how to make people trust you, which is what he does as a magician, right? So the first maxim of magic is be bold. And I want to share the story of boldness with you. So he says, magicians know that the rewards can be so much larger when you challenge yourself to take risks. Legendary Las Vegas magician Jimmy Grippo proved this one evening when he was in a bank. At 6 p.m., Grippo noticed that the vault door was being closed for the night. Thinking fast, he removed a playing card from his pocket and scaled it into the vault as the door was being sealed shut for the evening. His aim was perfect, and the card slid inside, unnoticed by the guard. Early the next morning, Grippo returned to the bank with a newspaper reporter. They met the bank manager, and Grippo convinced him to participate in a card trick. The magician introduced a deck of cards and subtly coerced the reporter to select a duplicate of the card in the vault, the 9 of hearts. Grippo made the card vanish using sleight of hand, and then commanded the manager to open the vault. To Grippo's surprise, the manager refused. He explained that the vault was on a time lock, and no one could open the door until 8 a.m. that morning. The 3 of them waited several more minutes until 8 o'clock rolled around, and the door clicked open. When the manager walked into the vault, the missing 9 of hearts was sitting on the floor. Needless to say, the manager and reporter had witnessed a miracle. He had a friend, this is Steve Cohen, had a friend who said, "Don't ask first, just apologize later." If Grippo had been caught throwing the card into the vault the night before, he would have simply apologized to the guard and retrieved the card. If his aim had been off and the card hadn't landed perfectly in the vault, his attempt would have been foiled, but at least he'd have tried. The message to take away from this story is that you'll never know the outcome until you decide to take a risk. Grippo received a feature story in the newspaper that day. He could have received nothing. Since we magicians make our living based on reputation and word of mouth, that newspaper coverage was like pure gold. Worth the risk? I'd say so. So the book is Win the Crowd. If you haven't heard of it or read it, I highly, 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 highly recommend it because it's filled with stories just like that. And when I read that at 16, and he goes in to give a lot of very practical advice on how to practice being bold, how to practice taking risks, like throwing a playing card into a bank vault, right? It takes a lot of guts to be able to do that. And that has translated into other places of my life, and it will for you too, as a coach. There's so much power in taking a risk that might work out, or it might flop on your face. But probably the worst thing that happens if it flops in your face is nothing. And the best thing that happens if it does work out is your team does better, you feel better about being an example to them of trying something kind of scary and trying something you never tried before and you're not sure if it's going to work. And I always say that the best we can be is examples. So be an example of bold. Do something a little risky with your team, maybe a little bit out of the box. Best case, it works out. Everybody enjoys the experience. Worst case, nothing. Nothing happens. You would do what that card magician did. You would apologize to the guard. You'd go in, pick up the card, and that would be that. I appreciate you. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Keep getting better every day.